This video is necessary because we humans are multifaceted, and when we add more of us into the mix, for example, in relationships, things become even more complicated, as the statistics show. Indeed, the rate of divorce in the UK is currently 42%. Now, I personally know two people who are going through the early stages of separation with the intention of divorce. I also counsel couples who are experiencing difficulties. These occurrences and my own professional work with couples have offered insights into the sometimes uncertain world of relationships that we all inhabit at some point. So I hope this video is useful for couples, those who are considering entering coupledom again, and mental health practitioners on both a personal and professional level, because sometimes we all need help. So I'm going to talk about the general aspects of being in a relationship and some of the issues that arise in couples counselling, issues you may have previously or are currently experiencing. So whether you know it as couples therapy, relationship counselling or marriage counselling, it's important to realise that you don't have to think of couples work as a last resort. Entering into couples therapy demonstrates a willingness to try to work at things, and it's more useful to do this before the question of staying together even enters the relationship. But if it has already, then therapy can help you understand if you can solve the issues. But it would be remiss of me to admit that sometimes couples therapy helps couples in a different way. Couples may decide not to stay together by learning if they want to, can, or should. So even though couples therapy does not always end the way we might expect or hope, this does not mean we cannot experience our happy ever after. It really depends on what this means for you. And even if you can't work it out, therapy can help you both process the change, perhaps in a less painful and more supportive way. We all start life in relation, from the womb to the present. So with all that experience, why are we failing so much at relationships? Maybe it's because we're learning how to relate on the job and learning from parents or caregivers who had to do the same. When we enter into new relationships, we have to factor in the different histories we and our potential partners come with, the varying attachments we've each formed, the damage we've all experienced as we've moved through life, and how these issues will impact our ability to withstand harm and to trust. Deep down, we carry rejection, shame, guilt, low self-esteem, to name just some. And essentially, we're deeply insecure in ways as we search for a happy ever after in a culture that would have us believe in skewed, unattainable concepts like Disney and Prince Charming. We're led to hope that someone will come along and meet our every need, but sadly this is unrealistic because we don't live in a Disney fairy tale, and our Prince Charming is less charming and more neurotic, as we all are. Because typically, men often keep their emotions bottled up, and while it's true that society has encouraged and perpetuated this behavior in men, it does not mean that men do not feel emotions. They're simply taught implicitly and explicitly to express them differently. In fact, in therapy, men can and do exhibit a wide variety of emotions, and therapy can help couples understand they feel similarly on issues, but with one of them feeling more comfortable expressing their feelings, while the other processes things in a different way. Gender stereotypes aside, we all have our preferred way of communication, which we learned in our earliest relationships. And you may have an awareness of how your partner is in certain situations, or as relates to certain subjects. So it's important to consider that there might not be any such thing as the one that is the perfect partner. Think about it. If our own parents were incapable of providing unconditional love, it's highly unrealistic to expect it from someone else. So when we put that kind of pressure on another person and therefore the relationship, we're more likely to fail. Yes, when our significant other does things that don't live up to our perhaps unrealistic expectations of them, we can take this very personally, feeling it to be a reflection on us and our partner's feelings towards us. But if we accept the fallibility of our partner, who is a flawed human being, much as we are, we take a positive step because we can work at becoming more accepting and can also be more vulnerable in their acceptance. Yes, effective relationships require the courage to accept one another in a fuller way, leading to deeper intimacy. So couples counseling work goes beyond awareness. It also offers understanding of the other's communication style. It bestows couples with the ability to learn one another's language. Imagine communicating without knowing another's language. As crazy as that sounds, this is in fact what we do a lot of the time in our closest relationships. By learning your partner's language, you learn how to listen to them, respond to them, and more importantly, how not to. Through counseling sessions, you and your partner can gain an incredibly powerful and helpful skill, despite your different and often conflicting relational and communication styles. Taking the issue of sex as a common problem, let's explore. It's very common for intimacy and sex to break down in long-term relationships because one person loses interest, which can happen for all kinds of reasons. And when one partner keeps turning down the other can start to feel undesired and rejected. When they experience this enough times, the one feeling undesired and rejected stops initiating sex altogether. So sex becomes infrequent or stops completely. I've found that often in these situations, couples will not really talk about the problem. They will instead make indirect comments or say nothing, but all the while experiencing hurt. Relationship counselors can facilitate by making a difficult conversation more open and accessible, by asking questions that may feel uncomfortable and even unsafe for the couple to broach alone. This can open a direct way of talking about sexual issues and can work surprisingly fast. For example, the level of desire may be different for each person, or there might be misunderstandings about desire, which when left unspoken can lead one person to feel personally rejected by the other. Exploring the issue in therapy invites the opportunity for a straightforward conversation, which can begin to improve the situation. Another issue can be difficulty in discussing how one prefers to be touched, for fear of offending the other. Instead of risking offending the other, the individual dreads sex, feeling disengaged and not enjoying it or avoiding it altogether. Therapy can aid intimate conversations and reacquaint couples with their sexual selves and life and playfulness and passion unlike ever before, due to the understanding on an individual and couple level, which can create deeper connection and intimacy. So there's this classic story about a couple session in which a wife reveals to her husband that she often prays for his death. But even if this surprises you, you might be more surprised to learn that it's not as uncommon as you think, or it may even resonate with your experience. Some people feel tense and trapped in their situations and environments. The wishing away of their partner is really a need to avoid conflict or simply for change from the current situation. Death conveniently takes the responsibility to initiate change out of our hands, seemingly thrusting us out of our misery. Now, revelations like this can emerge in therapy and are useful because they open up honest and intimate dialogue in a space that is therapy, in which couples can learn how to listen to what the other is really trying to tell them. Couples who come to therapy come for all sorts of reasons. Problems range from finances, disagreements about children, to sex. But no matter the main issue, there exists another problem here. The issue of how couples deal with the main issue. That is, how they communicate with one another about it. In fact, many of us couples therapists hear couples say, "Our problem is communication." Indeed, you may have noticed that you and your partner tend to fight about things or simply avoid them and withdraw from one another. This is the main issue, because if couples are unable to communicate collaboratively, they cannot overcome and resolve most issues. How couples manage their emotional responses to what they hear from their partners is crucial, requiring some self-awareness as well as awareness of their partner's intentions. For example, practicing patience and understanding about one another's actual positions in a situation rather than our own perceptions about it. Working with a therapist could facilitate a healthier way of communicating, one that brings back the intimacy that is lost along the way, helping couples to grow individually but also together as well. Look out for part 2, in which we'll discuss some common concerns that people have about engaging with couples therapy. Bye for now.